Well, India is the largest SME market in the world and contributes nearly $1 trillion to the economy. It contributes 36% of India's total manufacturing output, and going ahead, the sector is expected to contribute more than $2 trillion to the economy, create 50 million additional jobs come 2024, and yet it continues to be plagued by challenges when it comes to financing. To shed light on the current state of financing for SMEs and the initiatives undertaken to address industry needs, we have with us Harshvardhan Lunia, the founder and CEO of SME Lending Cart. As our guest for this segment, Harshvardhan, thanks very much for your time here. 65 million MSMEs, but just 14%, I believe, have access to formal credit. The credit gap is huge, $500 billion plus. What are you at Lending Cart doing to bridge this?
Hi, Ritu. First of all, thanks for inviting me here. I think the group or the bridge is pretty large overall. Credit gap is pretty large, Ritu. I think what's happening, Ritu, is in India also in MSMEs, the micro and small businesses are still getting funding. The medium and small businesses are still getting the funding, but the micro businesses, right, and very, very small businesses are not getting the funding. It is because of maybe due to information asymmetry, or they don't know how to apply to the larger institutions. The application process is cumbersome, right? The data requirements are too large for them overall. They are fully not aware of what kind of accounts, finance, and everything to keep. So I think we will have to figure out alternate ways of assessing their creditworthiness and then go ahead and provide them money, Ritu. I think as a fintech, we are trying to do that, build the journey for the customer in a digital form and fashion, where we go out, reach to them, and alternate credit models are helping us to do that as well.
Well, Harsh, typically, this is the festive season that's ongoing, and this is when SMEs tend to see higher business activity. So tell us how the season was and how it compared to last year. What kind of credit demand did you see from SMEs this time around?
I think this time around, we've had a fair share of credit demand in SME space. I think compared to last year, all of us have realized that the Diwali season overall was celebrated with much more fanfare, much more overall excitement and everything. So I think, Ritu, in our case, what happens is it's not just the festival season, it is before the festival season, right? For us, like obviously the business starts picking up from July, August, September, in the onset of November, Diwali. And this time we've done pretty good numbers. So last year we had disbursed close to 4,000 crore in the entire year. This year we're looking at something 6,000 crore plus. So obviously the demand, the requirement for this space has gone up, and we are seeing similarly that come up. Furthermore, we are seeing a lot more demand from tier 2 and below cities, Ritu, this time. This clearly indicates that the requirements or the needs of people for business is growing, and I think the business is also performing well for them. And that is what is seen across regions, Ritu.
Well, the Bharat opportunity is what we're always talking about here. But Harsh, Lending Cart has disbursed, you said, about 6,000 crores of loans last year, this year compared to about 4,000 the year before. In total, I think you've done about $1.8 billion to SMEs so far. What's the coming year looking like, and what are the targets as far as disbursal is concerned for this and the next fiscal?
So I think this year, Ritu, last year we did close to 4,000 crore. This year we are targeting close to 6,000 odd crore plus, Ritu. I think we've been growing more than 40-50% year on year. So next year we are looking at something around 9,000 crore, Ritu, for us. But again, Ritu, in lending business, it's not a race to a particular loan disbursals and everything. I think in lending business, we have to be very prudent depending on the economy, status of economy, depending on how our borrowers are doing, how the creditworthiness are doing and everything that we decide. As of now, it looks like we are in a reasonably good state. The economy seems to be in reasonably good state. Though we have seen certain lapses happening in consumer credit, and we are getting feelers around that, Ritu. But right now, it seems that MSME, which is the backbone of India overall, and which almost in I think next 3 years will constitute 50% of our almost GDP and numbers and growth and everything. It seems to be in a pretty good state. So next year, if everything continues fine, Ritu, we should be looking at 9,000 odd crores for ourselves.
Well, Harsh, I'm so glad you brought that up. Prudence is something that the Reserve Bank of India has also been talking about. You gave us a hint about, what you think of the consumer lending bit. But given that RBI norms have just come out, give us a sense of what happens to fintechs like yourself, NBFC fintechs and NBFCs, these new rules stipulating higher risk weight for consumer loans. What will it mean in terms of your borrowing from other lenders? And what will it mean in terms of lending rates for borrowers? And if any, are you concerned about the NPAs?
Yeah, I think fair, Ritu. I think what we've been seeing and we've been hearing across last 6-12 months is urban consumer credit, which is almost less than 1 lakh. The uh, output or outcomes over there are getting difficult, right? I think we've seen certain pain in certain segments, which is the less than 1 lakh urban consumer credit, where a lot of people have been given multiple loans and stuff like that. Ritu, for us, overall, what's happening? We are an MSME lender. We don't get classified under consumer loan. Obviously, there is the circular also mentions that RBI lending or NBFC lending from banks will go up, right? So what's happening, Ritu, is that prior to
Yeah,
2019, right? They were prior to 2019, RBI had sanctioned that on the consumer loans, the risk weight was 125%. Post
that's
19, they had
right.
brought it to 100%.
Yeah,
Now reinstated that, right? I think it's prudence on part of RBI. I think it's a welcome
yeah.
move from RBI overall, seeing that if a lot of people are facing certain pains in certain areas, right? Overall, and if there is stress building up in this segment, for some time, I'm sure they would want to do this. For us, Ritu, two things are there. One, almost 80% of our portfolio is priority sector lending. So due to that, we mostly don't get affected by these norms. Also, we are a micro and small business lender. So that's also needs to be seen up that in that sense. Furthermore, Ritu, our risk weight was already 100%. So RBI has also suggested that where you had risk weight which was lower than 100% overall, and then like it was 20% in case of AA or 50% in case of A category, then you add up 25%. Wherever you are already at 100%, you don't need to increase the risk weight because we are already being prudent in our case, Ritu. So I think these are welcome norms, Ritu. I think ecosystem has to build up, learn to build and grow with this only. I think RBI has been proactive in monitoring a lot of these things, and I think again they are doing good stuff to ensure that the ecosystem doesn't go through any pains further.
Harsh, quickly before we let you go, we have 10 seconds. There have been talks about your IPO for a while. Are you any closer to it now?
Yeah, Ritu, I think in some of the other conversation, maybe I would have mentioned. I think IPO is the next final. Is obviously the thing for our final thing for us as well in terms of we are trustees of finally the money that we take from our investors and we have to give them exits. I think, but we will plan it in due course, Ritu. I think in terms of size and scale, we will end this year at an AUM of close to 8,000 crore, where we are much in large in
Sure.
size and scale than of NBFCs that have gone for IPO in last 12 to 18 months. So at that size and scale, at the revenues that we have and
Yeah.
profitability touchwood that we have overall, we are doing pretty good. But I think we should look at it in terms of next 18, 24 months, how the ecosystem behaves and everything, and then we'll plan for it.
All right. Harsh, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on that front. Pleasure speaking with you. Thank you.